So let's go into greater detail on these different array of connectors that DataRoket offers. So as mentioned, Oracle 11G, and the same holds true. The idea with DataRoket is that whether you're coming from a database, your data source may be flat file, your data source may be Excel, it may be third party, in other words Peoplesoft, SAP, Business Objects, Business Intelligence. We recognize and build a schema structure dynamically, which is real time in this case. This is against 400 or 500 fairly complex tables in Oracle. And we build that structure immediately, and that's one of the original points or the package level that DataRoket uses to recognize data sources, to be able to recognize their data types, and then also join this data during our data association across whatever source you choose that has any type of key or value that exists in both sources. So that's Oracle 11G. Now and this is all real time, so this is going to take, I would say, about 20 seconds. What we're doing here is, in modern data, as we mentioned, data does not just exist in databases any longer. The challenges are across very disparate data sources. So Dynamics G is Microsoft Dynamics Great Plain Web Services. And what we're doing is we're reaching out to how we have this built, our DataRoket demonstrations across multiple virtual servers. We're reaching out to one of our Dynamics builds, and what we've done is we've advertised several of the Great Plains General Ledger web services, also some of the account balance information, and we're going to grab this information dynamically, and I'll go into this in a little bit of detail. Let me pull this in. But what we're seeing here is the data source and data type we're aware of are actually web services based on Dynamics GP. And let's take a look at that server, and I'll show you a little bit of what we're speaking to. So let me log into one of our virtuals, and you'll see Microsoft Dynamics servers. What we're really speaking to is not the system tables, but the web services that are associated with these business processes that already exist in Peoplesoft. And to show you more of the rudimentary, actually the structure that we're speaking to in that case, let's take a look. And you can see what we're really doing is on this three-tier structure, we're reaching out and we're dynamically recognizing all the schema and all the data types. And what that does, and this is really a one-time process, any of the connections that you build packages on these. So for example, I could build a package across Dynamics Great Plains, and this is for DataRoket to recognize. So let me drop this in, and we'll follow this through. So we'll call this package Dynamics GP. Let's go ahead and save this package. And you'll see now really what this means is we're aware, DataRoket itself is aware of all the data types of that web service. Now let's take a look at another data source. Let's discuss the Business Objects Universe connector. Now we have two different universes here. You can see the packages that are built. Let's go into the raw form. And once again, this is real time, so what we're doing is we're speaking to the VO-XIR2, and we also have an XI3 connector directly against the APIs that are available. So we're speaking to the universes directly, not system tables. And by what I mean by that is if you take a look at this structure, you'll see that even though DataRoket itself is aware, once again, of all different data types, and we have our own associations, on vendor-specific data as connectors, we're also aware of their functionality. This is a business objects formula, for example, and these are the different tiered structures. And very important is, when we speak of third-party vendors as data sources, there's the first level. You have to go beyond reading just table data. You have to recognize their schema and their hierarchies. But then you have to also recognize their relationships, which is very important. Otherwise, for example, all the work that's been done using business objects, universes in one case, for years, you wouldn't be able to use whatsoever. It'd be orphaned information. And I'll go into that and a touch of detail on that one connector. Now this is Business Objects, and let's pull in the people that know BO, very familiar with the eFashion universe. And you can see, not at a table level, but inside of the schema, the different values that you're really seeing in DataRoket, which I had just shown. Now also, if I go into one of our universes, this is a universe that we had built, DataRoket. Let me take a look at this one's a little bit more complex. There we go. What we do is, you can have, inside of any kind of universe or schema structure, you can have different formulas, filters, and these are the pieces that take many, there's developers that can take years to work on certain universes in the largest organizations. So very important is that we recognize these relationships, and when we say that we're a source of data, that means that we can either, by nature of what DataRoket does, we extract information, whether it's one row or multi-million sets of, multi-million row sets. We can associate that information when needed, and then also the end result is business intelligence, of course, but also a physical persisted set of partition output files that can be pushed to any application. And just as with all our data sources, if I want to take this information that we see, we recognize the data types, rules, formulas, third-party SDK values, different formulas. And if I save this package, within the package that DataRoket recognizes, let me go ahead and save this package. We're now aware, and once again, really this is a process that is done one time. You're really doing a mapping of all the data sources that are out there. So very important to know, once again, this is real-time information. You can see that now DataRoket's aware of what and how to associate information. Now let's go down farther down the list. Let me clear this. And let me take a look at, now SAP Business is quite different. That though it looks like a physical table, the SAP business process has already delivered the information behind it. And once we'll take a look at the flight list, once this compiles on SAP, and then we'll go back and we'll explain briefly about the SAP, how we're speaking to it. This process may take a little bit of time, so. And then finally, you can see all the information that's delivered to what we're showing in DataRoket as a connector really is derived from all these different locations. So not found in any direct table, but the hierarchy in the business process of the vendor, in this case SAP. Let's close this and take a look at some of the other connectors that we have available. Let me clear this out. Some that may be interesting. Now we mentioned Excel, we're going to read to an Excel branch. Now there's many applications, reading Excel in plain is nothing new, but what we do is, in our case, we're actually going out through an API and recognizing the data types and even the VLOOKUPs of an Excel spreadsheet. So in our case, you're going to see this may take about 30 seconds, but we're reading real-time but delivering schemas to several Excel files that are out there. 49 columns wide, and we approach this a touch different, that it's just another data source to us, and VLOOKUPs being one of the different formulas and types of information this data source delivers that we have to be aware of. So everything came back, and let me pull this, and once again, like I said, this is real time and it's a one-time process. When we speak of connectors, you're actually saying we're going to map out whatever this data source is just once to make available to our cell source, cell dynamics, reporting dashboard, and output data types. And let me open this up very quickly. Later on in several other demos, you'll see us pull data from this, associate to different data sources, and then go into reporting detail. So let me close this. And also, once again, Excel 2007, 2010 we're speaking to. SQL Server, different databases. This is a 2008. These are 2005s that I just was pointing to before. So the 2008 is pretty interesting that we in our development, we're actually testing and pushing demonstrations live against 30 gigs or so of data source databases. The SQL Server is actually a 30 gig database with quite a bit of not only wide data, but very complex relational constraints that are built on this. And just to show you, and it's really, once again, the mapping. So I'm pulling in, I suppose it's about 300 or so tables from very complex schemas, and we immediately see all the relationships that we've pulled into. And by doing this and knowing the different data types relationships, this is how our association takes place. Let me randomize and make that small, a little bit too much information to see. So back to some of our other data sources. Let me clear the screen, and some that are interesting. So Wachovia is one of our clients asked us to deliver an unstructured flat file connector, and by unstructured we really mean unstructured in the sense that there's a parsing that has to be done to the data to even pull out some kind of schema, and I'll show that briefly. Let me go into this this information, and so you can see what I mean by true unstructured data. Let me drop into this. And let's take a look at this data. Now, literally, the only way to access this and make any sense was to build a schema. So DataRoket has built a dynamic schema. In other words, there's an interface where you define what you want the data or column types, and data types, I'm sorry, to be, any kind of aliasing. And in this case, data is very skewed with no structure. So what we've done with DataRoket is we've also built a interface which is part of the rules engine video you'll see, but further also parsing defined rules based on that type of data. So in other words, we were told from this substring to this substring equates to this value. Any kind of summarizations would be the definition of these different values put together. So it's quite interesting. So let me close that. I'm going to go into some of the last few that I'd like to go into detail. Let's first go into Teradata. And once again, just a schema mapping quickly one time that's done, that we're recognizing Teradata DW13 that exists on one of our servers. And let me clear that and pull the Teradata tree in. And very important, once again, between all these different relationships or different data connectors is that we recognize the relationships between sources. And we'll go into Teradata very briefly. Let me close SAP. I think I have a Teradata window that's open. Let's log in, and we'll see the different structures. And that's what we're recognizing in Teradata. We've actually taken the different, in their case, the demo applications that's loaded. In many of these cases, even Peoplesoft, for example, their demo data that they deliver is over 10 gigabytes. So it's sufficient to do the type of testing in both as a connector and also scalability that we do much later on, you'll see. So that's the Teradata in general.